This is my presentation of the LA assignment. Let's go into slideshow. Play from the beginning. So my paper. This is the about the paper draft that changed the world, and it's a topic that I have selected from computer systems, written by. So the paper actually, before we talk about anything else, the paper is written by. It's about John von Neumann, who wrote a draft in a train to New Mexico. This is the beginning of a change in history and the creation of a technological world. So the author is written by Nancy Stern. She's an assistant professor of administrative computer systems at Hofstra University, and she mainly focuses on computer systems. And she has wrote many other influence books about what early programmers do, and it's on the IEE database part of the UCO library, which we can find on my Word document links. So if we check that out later. So introduction is about von Neumann, who started a rough draft on the EDVAC in a train, and he shares the ideas with his peers. And then the EDVAC later helped the creation of ENIAC. It had a huge impact on the ENIAC, and the ENIAC is what changed the computer world, which in efforts of the war. So that's our introduction. And on implementation, John von Neumann created some designs like using circuits, which he uses complex blocks built from E elements. And he was not a big fan of booleans, although other programmers would take his idea and implement it using booleans. This is just the idea of how the ENIAC was created, or operations through the design. And you can see that it's very complicated to understand with data and such. But if we look at implementations uh, were used through orders, just instructions like we learned in class. However, there were actually many challenges as provided table of in the provided table of orders, but there were no discussions of input and output instructions that were included in the first draft. So they didn't really know what to do with the input and output, but they did have a very complex orders of instructions. And we have looked at in today we have looked at the completed version of von Neumann's ideas today, which are complete assembly codes like Mari. And you could see that like this was the implementation that the ENIAC used, which was used through order of instructions, but they weren't very complete because there was no input or output that we could see in the line. But this is the newer version that we use today, which are Mari instruction codes that in class that we use, and we know the rest. Evaluation. Uh, the evaluation is about how I mean, we talk about the big how big it is, but we talk about more into it in our Word document. But as we can see, that the ENIAC was a great deal, and it was very adaptable, and it was intended, and then it was worked for a particular reason, and it was very well scoped, and it was actually really big. It involved a 50 by 30 9 by 15 by 9 meter cellar of the Moore School, which we can see in my background of the idea of how large it is and how complicated it is to operate it. And so this is just a little evaluation that I did, but in the Word document I explained much further. So on our conclusion, I learned that earlier implementations and designs were very complicated, but they were actually very complete rather than what we see today. And I learned that, and then I found that the root of technological change and influence can come from highly compacted ideas, but it actually takes many ideas to combine and cooperate in order to make a design to work. So all the things we see like Mari assembly and all that were just easier code used to implement the earlier ideas that were very complicated. But today it was not as complicated, because of the change and then the compacted ideas that were brought together by many people. And if we go to our contributions of what the ENIAC did, ENIAC actually influences the major change in beginning of on the use of computers for scientific research. We already know that, and then we know that technology changes every day, and you can see that today we use it for ocean, we use it for NASA uses it, and it's just how it contributed to a lot of things because the ENIAC just gave this major idea that like technologies were very effective in the world, and you can see that it was like one of the very beginning of changes. So it contributed to effective ideas that people take and use computers to find out about the ocean or many things or vaccine or anything like that. So that's how they contributed to our scientific world. My impressions, my impression of the letter that changed the world is relatable to the things I see today. However, I do hope that people don't overuse the influence of early technology and to lead to the downfall of humanity. Meaning, like, I'm not talking about like being fear of mechanical robots taking over the world, but rather how people rely more on technological creations more than building relationships, keeping relationships within humanity alive. So that is my impression about it. And thanks, questions and answers by Hrang Kap. And that is my LA assignment. And you can read more on the Word document we see here today. All right, that's it. Thank you.